So the next phase of the day is the exploration phase, whereby both parties are starting in their separate rooms, and the mediator is going to spend quite a bit of time with each side separately, trying to ask them open questions to explore the issues in more detail.
Is it okay for us to use first name terms?
Yes, of course.
Great, okay. Now this is a chance for us to explore the issues in more detail.
At this stage there's no mention of possible solutions, it's purely getting to know them, trying to draw out some new information and explore what has gone on for the last 3.5 years.
So, Anstey, you're an independent mediator,
Yes.
so you don't work for anybody?
Well, I work for HMRC.
Oh, you work from HMRC and you're an independent? Oh yeah, that's great, that's genius, absolutely genius. No, I knew this was a bad idea and it really is.
Ashley, can you please just sit down and give the lady a chance to explain?
The fact that the mediator has been provided by HMRC can often be an issue because there will be a question mark about that person's independence.
Ashley, can I just explain how this works? Yes, I do work for HMRC, but when I'm being a mediator, I am completely independent. I have not been involved in your case before today, and I hadn't met Mr. Blood or Mr. Gain before this morning. Shall we sit down?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The mediator, even if they are an employee of HMRC, will not have been involved in the case previously and often will not be a technical expert in that area of tax, and I think that's quite important, and the mediator can use that to reassure the taxpayers of their independence.
It's taken 3.5 years to get to this point, and it's cost you almost £20,000. So I just wanted to get a sense of what kind of impact it's had on both of you.
Well, over the 3.5 years there's been mountains of emails, piles of paperwork, backwards and forwards from our accountant, HMRC, numerous correspondence. It's been very stifling to the business and stressful.
How has it affected you personally?
Me personally, I tend to keep the business and personal completely separate. So none at all for me.
Well, that's just not true, is it?
What do you mean?
Well, it is affecting you.
What's that got to do with anything?
Look, you know what Jerry's been talking to you about?
Jerry? Why are we now mentioning Jerry?
Because
What are we
I think
talking
it's
about
important,
Jerry?
don't you?
Could I just interrupt and say, who is Jerry? Is he a member of the family or...?
No, he's a family friend, but he also happens to be my husband's consultant cardiologist. You see, all this has really taken a toll on his health, and
Just bring everything into it.
oh, he's too proud to admit it.
I see. Fiona,
Yes.
how are you feeling at this point?
Oh, stressed. Frustrated because I haven't really been concentrating on the business as much as I should, and also I've not been able to dedicate as much time to do the work that means most to me, which I've found very frustrating.
And what is it that means most to you?
Oh, well, I'm heavily involved in charity work.
Charity work?
Yes.
Well, this is fantastic because the mediator here has a new nugget of information which is going to be very valuable in the later stages of the mediation. She's clearly starting to understand what is driving Mr. and Mrs. Spencer Smith. This hasn't come out in correspondence previously, so good open questions, reflecting back, clarifying the details, and also probing them to actually find out what has gone on behind the scenes.
I don't believe your business is anything to do with...
Oh, no, it's completely separate.
No.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so, but this charity is obviously very important to you, Fiona. Could you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes, of course. Well, it all started because, unfortunately, our son was heavily involved.
Sorry, do we really need to bring out all our dirty washing and lay it all out on the table?
I think it's
why don't I just do that now and lay everything out on the table, all the dirty washing straight out? Why don't we just
is
get
it
it all
not
ready
important
for
that she has a full picture?
What? Well, that's important as well, is it?
Well, I think it is. Can I please continue? Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. As I was saying, our son got heavily involved with drugs, and he decided to sleep rough, and now we have no idea where he is. So on the back of that, because I have first-hand experience, I felt I wanted to set up a homeless shelter for youths in a similar situation to my son.
I see.
So that's how it all began.
A homeless shelter?
Yes, yes.
And where is this homeless shelter?
Well, it's in part of the extension that we've had.
Let me just clarify the extension. We used the extension and built it for business purposes. At the moment, we have furnished 3/4 of the premises, and it's used with business furniture, obviously. And this quarter has not been used at all. It hasn't been furnished yet. So
Okay.
that's the bit that's being used, just to clarify that.
But just to clarify, you are using part of the business extension as a homeless shelter?
Currently.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we've really got some critical information that we can use in the bargaining phase. So previously there's been no mention of this issue before, and this will be quite important when it comes to disclosing to the other side a new piece of information, which then could spur both parties on to try and reach their own solution. It's quite common in mediation that actually both sides come away with a new perception of the other side compared to the entrenched view that they had at the start of the day. And I think here we're starting to see a different side of Mr. and Mrs. Spencer Smith that hasn't come out before, both their personal and professional lives.
Is it okay if we use first names?
Well,
No.
yeah, I do.
Mr. Blood, I'm aware that you have some reservations about this process.
Reservations, yes, I would say that is something of an understatement. It is a complete and utter waste of time.
Well, I think you really should have some trust in me and the process. This is the beginning of the day, and we're only at the start. Mr. Gay.
Please, call me Lee.
Lee, thank you. Could you give me some insight into why it's taken 3.5 years to get to this point? I mean, maybe you could talk me through the main stumbling blocks.
Certainly, yes, well, there is lack of payment, a general lack of cooperation for any information, and there are correspondence delays, telephone calls, emails, etc.
Right. So, Lee, what do you feel are the main issues that we need to resolve today?
Point one is travel expenses in the company account. That's a total of £250,000 per annum.
Let's be clear, this is £250,000. Look, they have a holiday home in Spain. Now clearly, they just jet back and forth, long weekends, holidays, and they want to claim everything as a business expense. It's ridiculous.
Yep, there seems to be no clear indication or breakdown of business or travel expenses. Point number two, which is the large project to build an extension and refurbish the business premises.
Yeah, this cost over £1 million. £1 million, and despite repeated requests from us for documentation, they have yet to prove that any business has taken place in these premises.
Yeah, we're questioning how much of the cost is business related and should be deducted as an expense in their account. Finally, point three, there are 4 individuals named on the payroll, and we need to work out whether or not they actually do work for the Spencer Smiths. Namely, Mr. George Allen Spencer Smith appears to have been deceased for 5 years.
Yeah. Could you make a note of that, Anstey, if I may call you Anstey? Yeah. This person has been deceased for 5 years. Dead, passed on, no longer with us. Come on, Anstey, you work for HMRC. You know what's happening here.
Mr. Blood, I need to remind you that yes, I do work for HMRC, but as the mediator, I am totally independent.
Yes, so our research shows that there are large discrepancies between what they're claiming as legitimate expenses and what their true claimable expenses are.
As George Osborne recently said, the message is simple. If you evade tax, we're coming after you.
So just to be clear on this, you see the three main issues as the extension costs, which are very high, the travel costs, which may relate to a holiday home in Spain, and a dead relative on the payroll. And if we were to address these and find a resolution by the end of the day, I imagine both be very happy.
Absolutely.
But it's unlikely. It's already lunchtime and you haven't achieved anything yet.
Shall we have a look at these issues in more detail?
Yes, let's.
Great.
After so much correspondence, this can be often very new and refreshing for both sides and actually start to get under the skin of what has gone on for the last 3.5 years, because there are a lot of things that people wouldn't say in correspondence that maybe in a private room with a mediator they are prepared to say.
So do you think things are progressing?
No.
Well, actually, I do. I think they are progressing. I found it very refreshing that I can be open and honest, and I feel very comfortable with Anstey. So yes, I feel very positive.
So how do you feel it's going?
I think it's going really well. I mean, what's interesting is that at this point in the day, other people can't really see how it's moving forward. But from my perspective, I've actually gleaned some really, really important information which will help me with the next phase. So, yeah, really pleased with what we're doing.
By lunchtime, probably people feel that they need some time out. They're probably feeling quite exhausted. And the parties probably sense that they haven't achieved very much. However, the mediator will have quite a different perspective because of the new information that has been gleaned. Actually, essential work has been done.
So if I was to lay out all your travel expenses out on the table, how many of them would relate to weekends and holiday periods?
Mostly all of them.